Good evening, friends. Welcome back. Hope your practice today has gone well. So this evening we'll start by chanting the Ratana Sutta together. And then if you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to discuss regarding the topic which we've been talking about today or related to your meditation practice throughout the day, please enter it in the live chat and we'll go ahead and address that. Or if there's no questions, then we'll make something up. So please join us with chanting the Ratana Sutta and we'll take it from there. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Yani bhutani samagatani bhummani vayani vantarike. Sabbe bhuta sumana bhavantu atopi sakacha sunantu basitam. Tasmahi bhutani sameta sabbe metam kavrota manusiya pajaya. Devacharato chaharanti evaling tasmahi nerakata apamata. Yan kinchi vitang idavahurang vasage suvayang ratanang panitang. Nano samangati tathagatena idampi buddhe ratanang panitang. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Kayang viragang amatang panitang yadanchagasa kyamuni samahito. Natena dhammena samati kinchi edampi dhamme ratanang panitang. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Yang buddha seto parivannayi suching samadhi manandare ganyamahu. Samadhi nadhena samona vijjati dampi dhamme ratanang panitang. Etena sachena suvati hotu. Ye pungala atasatang pasata chatari etani yogani honti. Te dakineya sugata sasavakai te sudinnani mahapalani. Idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu. Ye supayutta manasa dalhena nikamino gotamasasanam hi. Te patipata matang vigaiha laddamudanim buhing punjamana. Idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu. Yatinda kilo pataving sito siya chatum vivade via sampakampio. Tatupamang samburisang vadami yo arya sachani avecha pasati. Vidampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu. Ye arya sachani vibhavayanti gambhira panyena sudesitani. Kinchapi te honti pusapamatana te bhavangatamanga diyanti.
Idampi
Sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu. Sahava sadasana sampadaya taya sudhamma jahita bhavanti. Sakaya diti vichike chitancha silabbatang vapi adatti kinchi. Chatuhapaye hi chavipamuto chachapithanani abhavvo katung. Idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu. Kinshapi sokamang karoti papakang kayena vacha uracheta sava. Avambo sodha saparichadaya avammadade tapadasavota. Idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu. Vanapagumbe yatha pusidhange gimhanamase patamasmin gimhe. Tatupamang dhammavavrangade saidimanagaming paramang yithaya. Idampi buddhe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu. Varo varanyo varado varaharo anuttaro dhammavavrangade sayi. Idampi buddhe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu. Kirang buranang navang nati sambhavang virata chitta yatike bhavasming. Tekina bija virulhin chandanim bhanti dhira yathayang paripo. Idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena sachena suvati hotu. Yani dhabhutani samagatani bhummani vayani vantalike. Tathagatang deva manusabhujitang buddhang namasama suvati hotu. Yani dhabhutani samagatani bhummani vayani vantalike. Tathagatang deva manusabhujitang dhammang namasama suvati hotu. Yani dhabhutani samagatani bhummani vayani vantalike. Tathagatang deva manusabhujitang sanghang namasama suvati hotu. Etena sacha vanjena dukkha vupasamentu te. Etena sacha vanjena bhayavupasamentu te. Etena sacha vanjena rogavupasamentu te. Okay. So at this time, if you have anything to ask or bring up for discussion, please enter it in the live chat and we'll go ahead and address it. I see there's... Yes, the cat has been forced against his will to participate in the session.
Well, he was about to attack the altar, so...
As he sometimes does when he wants attention. He sometimes communicates his attention by attacking things that we like. And he figured out that attacking the altar is a very quick way to get attention. So hello to friends joining in. Hello, Geeta, Kevin, Bradley, Lilia, Maya, Sally, Elaine, AP, Janice, and Mark. Welcome, all of you. So Sally asks, when I remembered to ask where is dukkha while doing housework, I saw mind thinking about what haven't done is dukkha. Afterwards, I switched to no euphoria from the body presently. Is this okay? So, the practice of asking where is the dukkha or what is the dukkha is to get beyond the story or behind the story. So, the story of what I haven't done yet is not actually dukkha. That's just a story. Dukkha is that underlying feeling of discomfort, discontent, displeasure, that feeling of unease. That's what we're trying to get in touch with, is the raw feeling of dukkha itself, independently of the story, separately of the story, because the stories don't matter. Whether your story is, I'm feeling dukkha because of what I haven't done, or I feel dukkha because they made me pick up rocks when I didn't want to, or I feel dukkha because the cat is being whiny, or I feel dukkha because my feet hurt, or whatever it is. That's just a story. It's not true. What's true is that you feel dukkha. So it's getting in touch with the direct feeling of dukkha. Because once we understand the direct feeling of dukkha, then we also see that we can directly stop it. Which once again has nothing to do with the stories that we tell ourselves. As for knowing euphoria through the body, that's a great practice, and it's one that I highly recommend as a samadhi practice, as a way of developing samadhi. So it's perfectly fine. It's also a joyful practice. Sometimes the practice of knowing dukkha can be, well, a lot of dukkha, because it requires us to look directly at the unpleasantness of our experience. So sometimes bringing our attention to euphoria, that pleasantness in the body, helps to bring up a sense of joy and contentment again in the mind. If we're getting lost in the dukkha rather than just watching it. Which brings up a related point, which is that when observing dukkha, it's important not to get lost in it, but just to watch it objectively and impartially without placing ourselves into it. Do you have any thoughts on this?
No, seems you covered everything.
Okay, do you want to do the next one?
And Elaine says, confession, broke a precept by flapping my lips and talking garbage about a couple of neighbors. While I was talking, I knew it was wrong and stopped as quickly as I could. Of all days, tonrun?
To run my mouth.
Oh, of all days to run my big mouth, I deeply regret what I said. This is great. It's actually a wonderful opportunity. What you're sharing is actually very similar to what we do in monastic life. So whenever we commit mistakes, we confess them. And usually the other monastic asks us, do you see the offense? Say yes. Do you commit not to do it again? We commit not to do it again. Very simple. Unless it's like a very major transgression, then there's different procedures. So you basically did that all by yourself, which is great, wonderful. So use song. And that's why we take precepts, by the way, so that it creates the conditions for us to catch ourselves when we do things unwholesome things. To look at our mind and then see, okay, well, that was unwholesome and unnecessary. I catch myself, I confess it, and then I go, okay. Now the one part you forgot is you forgive yourself and you commit not to do it again in the future. So it's all good.
Okay, and Bradley says, something unexpected happened today, and I found that I was a little sad. So I reflected, where is the dukkha? Yes, what happened was disappointing, but I realized I was also heaping my own expectations and desires, and that was why I was sad. that made it easier to work with and see that I was creating the dukkha there. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly the right way to handle these kinds of situations. Yeah. Yeah. Anything? Thoughts?
Yeah, it was what we were talking about this afternoon, fundamentally. Realizing these moments of realization, then loosen up the traction of the dukkha, make it bearable, as you mentioned, made it easier to work with, and that I was creating the dukkha. Not necessarily that you create the dukkha per se, but that you kind of make it, give it too much strength, make it, give it so much power to overwhelm your condition, your situation. So yeah, this is all great.
Yeah. So, since there's no other questions or comments, I think we can do some meditation practice now. So, please go ahead and get in a meditation posture, which means the full lotus position. Interesting. When the camera is pointed at Ayya, she doesn't roll her eyes.
I knew that you were saying
Interesting.
it. So I controlled. I put strong mindfulness of the body. Also, I look down so that you can't see the eye roll.
Oh, that's clever. That's clever.
Side eye.
Yeah, she did do the side eye. That's true.
And Sally says, I choose euphoria instead of continue observing dukkha. I don't want bad feeling.
Well, at some point, you do need to come to grips with bad feeling and learn how to observe it with equanimity. Keep in mind that the word for equanimity literally means looking closely. So, for true equanimity, we have to be willing to look closely at our experience without desire or aversion. But sometimes we're not ready for that. We're not quite there yet. And in that case, yeah, coming back to a pleasant object, like the samadhi produced euphoria, that's a perfectly appropriate thing to do.
And Sally's saying, so this method is actually to overcome the aversion towards bad feelings.
Do you want to answer that? I just talked. Your turn to talk.
Fundamentally, yes. There's an answer.
Yeah, but it's also about learning to recognize dukkha and to recognize how we create dukkha and to recognize how to let go of dukkha.
Yeah.
So that's fundamentally what we're doing here.
Yeah, but you can only do it if you stop having aversion towards the unpleasant feeling. Otherwise, the aversion takes over your entire experience and there's nothing to see.
So again, please get in meditation posture if you're not in it already. And we'll do some meditation. So taking a few deep breaths, letting the body and mind relax. Just dropping the weight of all the day's activities, thoughts, and plans, letting all of that drop away. Just settling into the peacefulness of silently sitting here with nothing to do, nothing to plan, nothing to think about. and centering attention in the body, holding the mind steady, still, and alert in the body. Really taking the time to stabilize and sharpen the mind, using the body as an anchor of attention. And as the mind becomes more stable, you can start gently turning it towards investigating dukkha. You might gently ask yourself, where is the dukkha? Peeling back the layers of stories and ideas, and getting directly in touch with the feeling of dukkha itself. Just seeking to know dukkha, to understand it through directly feeling it. Where is the dukkha? What does it feel like? And just watching the dukkha as it shifts and flows, and recognizing this is not me, this is not mine, this is not who I am. So seeing the dukkha as external, as impersonal, just a natural function of the world, a natural arising from causes and conditions, but not our true nature. Where is the dukkha? Where is the dukkha? Keep gently, persistently asking yourself, where is the dukkha? Joyfully, calmly asking yourself, where is the dukkha? Okay, you can relax your posture. And when you're ready, if you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like us to talk about based on the topic of the day, please go ahead and type it in and we'll talk about it. So I see Gita. So we have both Gitas today. So we have both Gita Jnana and Gita Ratnayake. So welcome both Gitas. I'm happy to see you joining from New Zealand. Hello, Victor. Happy to see you joining in as well. And Mark asks, he says, so it seemed like once I got in touch with this constant sense of dukkha, I did get lost in it. Seemed inherent in everything I do/did. Couldn't get the observing with equanimity bit. Any hints? What do you think?
I would say that obviously at the very beginning, once we start really looking at our experience, it can be a little bit disconcerting. So we've been talking about it over and over again. I think in the past days, in the past months, I have lost track of time now. Whenever we started these live streams, it was supposed to be a couple of weeks, and then it's been a month and a half. Maybe it's going to be like 2 years.
So I'm actually reminded of a story. So Ajahn Jayasaro was a Western monk, a British monk living in Thailand. He was a direct disciple of Ajahn Chah. And when Ajahn Chah got very sick and it looked like he was going to die any day, Ajahn Jayasaro made the vow that he would not lie down until Ajahn Chah passed away, that he would do sitting meditation all night long, every night until Ajahn Chah passed away, expecting it would be, any day, maybe tomorrow or the next day. It was 7 years. But he kept to his vow. He kept to his vow of not lying down for 7 years. He permanently damaged his spine, by the way, through this practice. But there's that determination. But what I learned from this story of his is to always be careful what kind of determinations one makes.
Well, hopefully the pandemic will last less than 7 years, and we won't.
I'm not that optimistic. I'm not.
And we will. Our backs won't be, destroyed forever. But anyway, getting back to your question. So yeah, the very beginning, because most of the time we pretend that whatever we're experiencing is not there. So we layer it up with a lot of delusion, where the whole sort of ignorance is bliss kind of comes from. And ignorance is bliss is partially true. Shocking that I say that there's actually some truth in it. It's true in the sense that it gives you that sort of sleepyish kind of like everything is sort of okay, but everything is okay in the sense that everything kind of sucks is okay. So when everything kind of sucks, you don't question it. It becomes not a bliss, but it's blissful to the extent of knowing. It's kind of like saying that we here in New Jersey, we live in a tropical like sort of situation, because we've never been to the tropics, so like we have no idea. So there might be like one tropical pseudo plant that lives in the backyard, and I go like, oh yeah, such great, wow, it's like living in the tropics here. But realistically, I have no idea what it is. So in that sense, there is some kind of like weird thing. But then I actually go to the tropics and I realize that what the tropics are. So point being is that when we start then looking at our experience with honesty, at the very beginning, we're shocked. We're like, whoa, either what a mess is in there, or as you're mentioning, like, wow, that's shocking. Actually, this sort of feeling of dissatisfaction is always there, even when I'm having fun, even when I'm enjoying ice cream. If you like ice cream, we're actually talking about this today.
Were we?
Yeah. After eating ice cream, we had ice cream for lunch, courtesy of a lovely donor. We had other things for lunch, and then there was ice cream.
It wasn't only ice cream. That would be a little over the top.
Yeah, we're not 5 years old anymore. It's like, yeah, ice cream. But yeah, when you actually start analyzing the experience of ice cream, that we think of it with a sort of pleasant association. It's because we're attached to the pleasant association. There's also a lot of unpleasantness in having ice cream. For example, the extreme cold, sometimes it gets into your teeth. You need some hot water right after a spoonful of ice cream in order to kind of like get it sort of manageable right in there. But what are we pointing our attention to? We point our attention to the pleasant feeling. We fuel the pleasant feeling. We attach to the pleasant feeling. And we crave more of that pleasant feeling without realizing that there's actually a lot of dukkha there, even in the pleasant feeling. So yes, a little bit disconcerting. But then, as actually Bradley was talking about earlier, the more you become acquainted with the dukkha that is omnipresent, the more you become friends with it. What we were talking about earlier this afternoon. That's when we become friends with dukkha. So we're like, oh, okay, I know you. I see you. Okay, I understand you. You're not a foreigner that like just boom, oh, shocking. Oh, wow, that's dukkha. Oh, better have some ice cream so I forget about the dukkha. No, you're like, oh, actually everything is there. It's pervading. So then you also understand more fully the First Noble Truth. You start understanding fully the Second Noble Truth of the cause of dukkha, cause of suffering. 3, the good news, yay, there is such a thing as the end of it. And 4, the way to get out of suffering, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. So understanding dukkha, making friends with dukkha, then propels us to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. Otherwise, we're kind of like, oh yeah, well, maybe I should only practice when I don't have ice cream. That's dukkha.
Okay, and Bradley asks, can you talk about practicing in less than ideal conditions? Yes, because that's everyone's conditions. So the only place in all of samsara that supposedly has ideal conditions is Amitabha's Pure Land. And even there, it's not quite ideal. It's just really good, but it's not quite ideal. So everybody has less than ideal conditions. So you do the best you can. That's the long story short. Do the best you can. So do you have a mind? Do you know the Dhamma? Do you have the will to practice the Dhamma? Do you understand the Dhamma to at least some extent? Then you've got pretty darn good conditions. I know you, Bradley. You have really good conditions. Of course, they're not ideal, but nobody has ideal conditions. So whatever conditions you have, you ask yourself, how can I use this as a support to my practice? So if your conditions are supportive to samadhi, then develop your samadhi. If they're not supportive to samadhi, then develop your wisdom. And no matter where you are or what the situation is, always maintain your virtue, always maintain your sila. So every condition you face is an opportunity to develop your practice. It's just not always the way we want it to be. Again, maybe you come to the monastery and you want to just practice samadhi all the time, but they assign you to work in the garden. And you're like, no, this is not ideal conditions. Ideal conditions would be doing 16 hours of samadhi practice every day. That would be ideal. But no, it wouldn't be ideal. That's just a story that you've built up in your mind. The reality is that whether you're in the meditation hall or working in the garden, those are the ideal conditions if you use it as an opportunity to develop wholesome mind states.
May is not rolling her eyes, but they're going side by side. We're getting the Burmese version now. It's like...
Yeah, so what's the situation? If you can't get, if it's not conditions for good samadhi, well, that's just how it is sometimes. You can practice equanimity. You can develop the perception of impermanence. You can develop the perception of not self. There's lots of ways you can develop and strengthen your mind, even if the conditions aren't ideal. Okay.
Maria says, to understand dukkha is also dukkha. Such a dukkha-ish life. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a really lovely song. It goes, dukkha, 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 death.
By Bhante, Suddhaso. Oh, dear.
So,
Oh.
So for the record, you can't actually see this, but just below the camera level, she's playing with the cat.
I'm not playing with the cat. The cat
See, there's his little paw.
He's just playing with my...
You see the little paw?
He just has like my
Where's the
little
paw?
hand.
Bring it. See, paw. Okay. So Sally says, while just observing the feeling of dukkha, how do we gain the wisdom where the dukkha is coming from and how it ceases? You'll see. You can see it arising. You can feel it arising. And you can also see as it fades and diminishes. And you also start to get a sense as to what's producing it. Yeah, the closer you look at the feeling of dukkha, the more you understand it, and the more you understand its origin, the more you understand what you're doing that's fueling it. Okay.
And Sally's also asking, I thought when there is dukkha feeling, it's unwholesome. Well, I have bad news for you, Sally. But dukkha will always be there until awakening. So, better make friends with it.
It's not going away anytime soon. And it's not the dukkha itself that's unwholesome, but rather dukkha is a consequence of unwholesome choices. So the dukkha is a little warning flag that we've done something unwholesome with body and mind.
But once again, I think from what you are describing, it seems a little bit that you're approaching this with aversion and with the instinct of repression, as if like there was something wrong with your experience. Hence, that is unwholesome. That shouldn't arise in me. Oh, there shouldn't be dukkha in my mind. Otherwise, I'm not a good practitioner. So all of that is the judging mind. All of that is strengthening your idea of self, strengthening whatever you think you are. And also overestimating your power, overestimating everything, and creating extra stories. So doing pretty much everything except what you have to do, which is looking at things the way they are, not like you would want them to be, but just the way they are. So Stan's tail, or here we go,
Yeah.
has a white tip. It's black with a white tip. So I just look at it and I go, this is a tail that is black with a white tip and it's twitching. I don't go like, oh, I wished it was like straight and stopped moving and it were entirely black. Or, oh, it's unwholesome that it has a white spot on top of that, or whatever, all those projections. I just see it the way it is. And I understand, like right now, it's twitching. Where is it going? Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Shakes, changes, shakes, changes. Oh, left, right. A little bit to the right, to the left. So this is basically what you have to just look at it, learn from it. And then once you really understand the nature of Stan's tail, which is no different than the nature of your mind, then you can start creating new conditions for other wholesome results to appear.
Okay.
And Gita says, is Pure Land mentioned in the Pali Suttas, or is it a Mahayana concept? And this is a question for Venerable Bhante Suddhaso.
So there is something mentioned in the suttas in the Pali Suttas called Suddhavasa, which literally means the pure abodes, the pure dwelling places, the pure lands. And it's described as the place where non-returners and arhants live. So it's somebody who becomes a non-returner as a human or a lesser deva, but does not become an arhat. Then they're reborn in the Suddhavasa, in the Pure Lands, where they will eventually attain full enlightenment. So that's what we see talked about in the Pali Suttas. The Mahayana Sutras also talk about Pure Land, but they speak about it in a slightly different way. There's some overlap between the two concepts, and there's a lot of debate among scholars as to whether it's actually talking about the same place or not. I don't have a strong opinion on the subject, but I do have opinions on the subject. Yeah. That's the long story, very short. Anyway, that's the last question. So if there's no other questions, we can go ahead and close for the evening. So thank you. Ooh, one more. Sally says, in the meditation, I did see the dukkha arise from aversion to a thought, like what I haven't done. So the origin is the aversion. Then I continue to observe the feeling or aversion. In that case, I would recommend drop the aversion and just keep watching the dukkha. So as you watch the dukkha, you'll also start to notice the ways that you're fueling the dukkha, and you'll stop doing that. You'll stop fueling the dukkha. Because you start to see this immediate correspondence. So it's kind of like this bell is making noise. And we're kind of like, oh, this is awful. The bell is making noise. Oh, how terrible, the bell is making noise. I hate this so much. Yep, the bell is still making noise. How awful. And at some point we realize, wait a minute, I'm hitting the bell. That's why it keeps making noise. Maybe if I stop hitting the bell, it'll stop making noise. And the bell sound starts to fade away. And because we're paying close attention to the dukkha, then we notice that when we start hitting the bell again, that the sound gets louder. Until at some point, we stop hitting the bell entirely, and the dukkha starts to fade away. And by not striking the bell at all, eventually it becomes completely silent. So this is why the practice of observing dukkha is a necessary condition for understanding how we cause dukkha and how to bring it to an end. So yeah, just keep observing the feeling of dukkha.
Right, and I really like that. It's great. And Irving says, when I break concepts in noting, I feel dissociated and panic arises with it. How do I deal with it? The dissociation remains after the sitting session. I would say drop the noting method. It clearly doesn't have good results for your current conditions. So all meditation practices, all methods, particular methods. So in this case, I think you are practicing the Mahasi method. They're all great methods, but it doesn't mean that one size fits all. Otherwise, the Buddha would have taught the Mahasi method. So the Mahasi method is a method that Mahasi Sayadaw, who was an incredible Buddhist monastic, had great results with and started teaching to others. You'll find similar Goenka, not monastic, but great teacher who taught a particular method. There's lots and lots and lots of different methods. But there's also, as you see in the Pali Canon, the Buddha taught numerous, incredibly lots of meditation practices to people. And that's for several different reasons, at least that is my understanding. One, that the mind is constantly changing. Hence, in some situations, it's more useful to use one approach, and in another situation, it's more useful to use another one. And also because we all have different types of conditions. So we're all dealing with greed, hatred, and delusion, and we all need to attain awakening, but the conditions that we have are slightly different. So whatever, I really like very much actually the approach that the Ajahn Chah lineage has, that Bhante Suddhaso was trained in, which is to do whatever works fundamentally, which comes from an understanding of your mind. So there is a preliminary requirement of understanding the workings of the mind and then doing whatever works and experimenting with things and making your judgment based on the results that you get from the meditation. So the noting method might work in an excellent way for, say, all your friends or some of your friends or whatever it is who are practicing such method. But if you have anxiety, dissociation, etc., clearly it's not a good method for you. So try something else. Drop that and look for something that brings you closer to the release of suffering instead of piling up more suffering to the suffering.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that Ayya Soma just said. And I would also just say, admittedly, without knowing you at all, and without knowing much about your condition at all, I would say that odds are likely that loving kindness meditation would be a much better choice for you at this time than noting. So you might come back to noting in a couple years or something, but I think it's, as Ayya Soma said, it's probably time to shelve it for the time being and to develop some proficiency with meditation methods that are soothing and happy. So things like loving kindness meditation, joyful awareness of the body, recollection of the Buddha, if you have faith in the Buddha, recollection of your own goodness, if you have virtue, which you probably have some, or else you wouldn't be much interested in Buddhism. So using joyful practices, soothing practices, peaceful practices, things which bring you a sense of ease and serenity and joy. Because these are necessary conditions for the arising of wisdom. If we try to just cultivate wisdom directly without the necessary preconditions, of ease and joy and serenity and happiness and samadhi and so on. If we try to just cultivate insight directly, then we usually wind up making our mind a very unpleasant place. And often we wind up causing psychological harm. So we need to be careful. The dry insight methods work well for very few people. Very few people. Okay, so
Bradley is asking, oh, what can we eat at night again?
Send us an email. It doesn't lend itself easily to short explanations.
Yeah, you can. Come on.
Okay, then you do it.
All right. Cheese, pretty much anything that is sugary. Herbs. What is considered as medicine? So, for example, roots, Chinese roots, like ginger, lotus. Maple syrup is sugary, honey, stuff like that. He says because we took the 8 precepts.
Oh,
today.
yeah. Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate, yes.
That's a popular one in monasteries.
Yeah, most popular, greatest hits are cheese and dark chocolate.
Yeah, those never go out of style. Yep.
Unless you're lactose intolerant.
Then life gets a little more complicated.
Or you hate chocolate.
Also, some complications. Almond milk, not okay, but soy milk is okay.
Yeah.
Soy milk.
Soy milk.
Yeah.
Bradley hates chocolate. Oh, welcome to the club. Me too.
Okay, I now know 2 people who don't like chocolate. That's amazing. So Sally says, I realized how addicted I use analytical thinking to find out where is the dukkha and how to end them. Before my way is what I should do, so the thought and disconnected feeling of haven't done won't arise. I need switch to just accept whatever is. No need to change, just knowing. Yeah. This is not an analytical thinking kind of practice. It's a direct feeling kind of practice. There is a place for analytical thinking in Buddhism, like when you're reading the suttas, there's a place for analytical thinking. Or when you're having Dharma discussion, that's a place for analytical thinking. But during your meditation practice, it's usually a practice of direct feeling, of knowing through feeling it for yourself immediately, just as surely as you can feel your fingers touching. So you don't need to think about your fingers touching, you just feel it. So it's the same. You don't need to think about your dukkha, you just feel it. And you feel how you're making it, and you stop. And often it really is this process of figuring it out, almost like a blind person trying to feel their way through an unfamiliar room. Because often we don't really understand what the triggers for our dukkha are. So we're feeling the dukkha, and as we pay close attention, we notice that when we do certain things, the dukkha gets stronger. And when we do other things, the dukkha gets weaker. So you just naturally start to learn how to diminish your dukkha. Okay. Sally says, oops, I drank almond milk today. Well, that's not the end of the world.
All right.
Yep. So, yeah, that looks like the last question. Did you want to say something?
No, it's all good. Actually, broth. You can drink broth. I had forgotten. And bean broth, which is why soy milk isn't allowable. And Victor says, Bhante, when you play with your praying bowl, I realize that's what make me dukkha.
Well, Victor, may you be free of dukkha.
Oh, so this is not is it a praying?
I've never heard it called that, but I'm okay with it.
Oh, religious object.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Victor says, I keep hitting myself. Yeah, that's actually what it's like. We realize that, see, we think all along that we've been hitting the bell, but we've actually been hitting ourselves. And that's what's been making things so uncomfortable.
Trigger warning for Victor.
Oh. I thought you were saying dukkha because I was reaching past the cat.
Oh, no. Oh, right. Oh, miso soup. Yes, correct. Yes, you can have miso soup. That's very good.
And yeah, so Elaine and Sally, I like your reflection. So I hope you'll continue practicing and that all goes well. So yes, I think we're going to...
Yeah, and actually, Sally, I did see dukkha decrease while just observing. Yes, that's where you see once you start making progress, evaluate always the condition of your mind, evaluate the situation, and then you see, okay, I'm making progress, then I keep on doing this. When you see you don't make progress, then you stop doing whatever you're doing. Very simple.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad that this is starting to click for you.
Great.
So yeah, I think we'll go ahead and end for the evening. So thank you all for joining in. So it's always lovely to see you participating day after day after day, and also to see that the Dhamma is helping you, that the Dhamma is helping you come to a better understanding of how to be happy and wise. So it's really lovely that we all get to become better people together. So may your practice go well, and we'll see you tomorrow. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.